through our process, or we're not locked, that the attorney can say, hey, we don't have to worry about that, and then that's done. But I'm just putting it out there so we can have a dialogue about it. So, thank you.
But no, and you bring up a valid point. Counselor, where are we?
Well,
Somebody else fixed our streets. Oh my God.
Somebody fix our parking lot too. So we gotta get both of them done.
so you have an individual citizen who approached them separately, not representing the city, and talked with them.
An employee.
An employee of the city? Do you work for the city?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what she's talking about,
I
she's just
couldn't hear
talking.
where that was coming
She's just
from, I
talking.
apologize.
Hold on, she
So-
doesn't work for the city. Go ahead.
Okay, and she's not representing the city, and the city was unaware that this was happening. So I don't think that you have, you know, anybody can sue anybody, we
Is
all
it
know
bad
that.
that she said?
And we don't know the quality of the repair, we don't know anything, you know, I certainly would not say that you're any more liable than if any citizen went, just because you now know about it after the fact doesn't make you any more liable than if any citizen went and asked the developer to fix a pothole. So,
Okay.
But she does sit on economic 4B, is that not it?
I would certainly say, if I were to have an accident because this pothole was poorly fixed, if I were an attorney representing the person who was injured by this poorly fixed pothole, I would say that she represented the city, and that would be a fact question.
Yeah, my question, again, please, it is not for a debate of good or bad. I just want to make sure that our process, that we have now documented, that you said is okay for people to go fix the city of Prairie View potholes throughout the city.
I'm certainly not saying that.
Okay, so let me hear what you said again, then, because that's
I'm
what I
saying
heard.
I'm saying from a city standpoint, the liability that you have for someone doing anything that you were unaware of and that you did not approach them as a city to do is minimal. Now, if you have someone who represents the city in another capacity, could an attorney argue that they were representing the city? Sure, absolutely. So I'm not saying it's good or bad. You could have someone climbing up a light pole, changing the lights, and you don't know about it. Are you liable? You know, I'm an attorney, but I certainly don't know any more than you do what somebody's gonna claim in a court of law, or, you know, it's, you didn't know about it, you're finding out about it after the fact.
So I guess,
Yeah, go ahead.
so I guess my concern, you know, I appreciate them fixing the road, but when you look at perception and reality, right, so we have this developer who's been getting a lot of heat about not having the proper inspections, and we've been talking about this development for months, and now we hear about them fixing all of this, a lot of the city's property, right? And so now, if you look at the perception, it looks like, oh, well, is the city, whether it's factual or not, people's perception becomes the reality. So they're saying, well, on one hand, we're having this discussion about them not having the proper inspections and permitting, and then on the other hand, they're fixing city streets and doing all of this. So are we exchanging them being able to omit their process over?
Quid pro quo.
Yeah, so obviously you can't do quid pro quo.
Absolutely.
If I could say it. So, but the city is not, you're finding out after the fact. On the other hand, now you have a pothole and you don't know if it was a quality repair or not. You still have it on your list. I certainly think now that you know it's been fixed, you should have whoever does do your repairs, at a minimum, check what repair was done and see if it needs to be supplemented on the city dime. You know, I mean that's just common sense. Keep it on the list, make sure it's checked out, because you don't know what was done. Could have been filled in with gravel as opposed to, you know, hot mix or whatever is appropriate for that road. You know, I don't know. But there's not a lot you can do about something you hear about after the fact.
There's nothing.
You may want to implement a policy where that you have, you know, boards and commission policies where they don't approach people who are in negotiations with the city on developments. You may, you know, there's a lot of things you can't really control.
Councilman Jones.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I yield to you to see if you got any additional information that you would like to add.
I'm okay right now on item 11. Based on what council shared.
Okay, oh, so that was your discussion?
So it just depends on what the situation's open. Are you done?
Oh, no, I'm not done, I haven't got started.
Okay.
All right, so, Mr. Mayor, what is the what would you say is the process for us getting our streets fixed? So, could me, myself as a council member, call out some bids, or people who do this to come out, view our streets, once they view our streets, ask for assistance or specs, from the engineer, so that way I can be able to bring that information back to council to make a,
Not from the engineers, street repair folks, we welcome you getting quotes,
So I-
assist with what we're getting, yeah.
alright, so could I, as a council member, talk to, the engineer services about getting specs for the
No.
street?
No, not based on the contract that you approved. Says they deal with the mayor, it's in the contract you approved 2 weeks ago.
So, every,
But the engineers don't fix the streets.
no, but they can get the specs, so to what the streets they go and read.
I talked to the engineer.
But,
Streets is not quote unquote what they do. They're gonna bring someone in, we're paying the engineer and who they bring in to fix. Let's skip the engineer process and go to who fixes the streets
Mr. Mayor,
and get the quotes.
the reason why I asked is because I spoke to the same engineer that we had a meeting set up in the morning time with the services, people that wanted to put out bids, but they wanted to meet with the engineer. And, I was told that I can't ask for an engineer to come out.
That's correct.
So how,
The people who we've had do potholes, remember, we're talking potholes here.
no,
Not for
Well,
Marie Antoinette.
when we, and when I spoke with Engineer Peters, he's taken a look at Marie Antoinette and Joan of Arc. That's handled. But to have both of us talk to him and add twice the bill, that's not what we're having.
we're not adding twice the bill.
Well, I already
Mr.
spoke to him
Mr.
about
Mayor,
it.
Mr. Mayor, we are a team, and yes, to a certain, yes,
We have different roles, Councilman.
which I understand.
That's all
But
we're
being-
talking about.
Being that you are busy and that
Mhm.
you have a lot going on, and we talked about, this has been probably about a 4 to 5 month plan. We asked last council meeting that we come back with the potholes, the list, we go out, we ask for bids, and that if a person that's putting out a bid actually speaks to an engineer, and I ask the engineer just to come out and speak to him, I don't see why. And we're a team, Mr. Mayor, we're on the same page.
Well,
At the
let me-
end of the day, to get streets done in the city, to see how the budget is not coming to an end, how can we move this process a little
Now-
faster and it expedites the process? I'm not getting, we all get the streets done, it
Okay.
looks like the mayor
Let me,
got the streets done.
let me ask you something. We need a few bids, right? Yes, no, you just want to go with one? You know how that works?
I called 3 companies out, Mr.
Okay.
JJ, sent me the 3 companies, the local companies actually, they came, 2 of them came out, one of them had to reschedule, and, they wanted to meet with the engineer to see the specs, so with Maria Antoinette and Joan of Arc, to see
Bless you.
the width of the street, and how high the street should be, and coming up and talking. But as an engineer, as a city council person, I don't know that information, so I don't see why I can't ask an engineer to provide.
The
that
engineer's
information.
already been asked. It's been done, it's being done. Yes, sir.
I guess my question is, when I think about the process, why wouldn't the company create the specs and then create a bid over the specs and then bring that to the,
Because they have to get with the engineer, because different cities have different, protocols on how they like their streets to be done, as far as what you can use for a subdivision, as far as the width, the height, all that kind of information. So, one bid sent me out a bid for 6 to 8 to 10 inches, but he didn't know which one was which, so he would like to speak to the engineer upon the height of the street.
He can get it from the same place the engineer's gonna get it, it's online. Tell him to go to our website, our ordinances are online.
so
It's there.
basically, what you're asking for, we have with 3 companies,
We had 3 companies, I have measurements of the streets. What I was basically asking, I'm gonna make the motion, but all I wanna just say and show as if we are a team, then we have to work hand in hand together, Mr. Mayor. And I don't see that it's been problem with a council member going out to do research or asking
Mhm.
for, the needed information to assist our citizens in getting their streets done.
So all we're asking for, just for clarity, right, is for the city engineer to meet with the proposed street construction companies. That's
To
what we,
provide the spec.
that's what we need to do?
Mr. Mayor, I wanna, we all embarked on this process, I think about 4 months ago, where we sat, we had a workshop, we followed the process, everybody was included, and we've been working as a team along this process, but the bottleneck comes when the mayor thinks we are trying to supersede his authority, when when we're not even executing on anything. Councilman Jones is asking for the ability for you to stop telling the engineer that he can't talk to him and give him information. And we would hope that you right now can bring to city council a street plan that you have not done thus far.
And you haven't done it
And
in
so
9 years.
city council, I'm talking, Mr. Mayor, city council has moved forward collectively with the community and you being at the table to say, these are the streets and this is the plan we wanna move forward. So I'm not understanding what is the issue in reference to the process Councilman Jones is outlining when we've sat here in a public workshop and then 3 subsequent city council meetings talking about the same thing that you've been a part of.
Let me share something with you. Scope of services, professional services agreement for general engineering services. Council voted on this just 2 weeks ago. Scope of services. All work performed by consultant hereunder shall be performed to the satisfaction of the mayor. The determination made by mayor shall be final, binding, and conclusive. You all did this. I didn't put this together. I didn't even vote on it. Now, you vote on something, you talk to me, especially you, Councilman, about processes, but you don't wanna follow this process when it's convenient. If we're gonna follow processes, we're gonna follow all of them, not just when it's convenient for council. This is the contract. The engineer called me because of the contract that you all voted on. He wants to make sure that he's following it. If he talks to each one of 5 of us, or 6 of us, and then they're billing at a couple of $100 an hour, you all don't see those bills. But you wanna talk to the engineer. I don't know any more about the street than you do, but I do know this, and having followed it, Marie Antoinette was nowhere near where it is now 3 years ago. Joan of Arc has been expanding as we've been adding new connections. You don't know what's going on over there, but you just wanna put a street. How long is the street supposed to be? Do you know?
Well, Mr. Mayor,
All I'm saying is there's more to it than just talking to the engineer and running up a bill. We got that problem now.
yeah, and I think we have that problem now with the attorney because we're not all on the same page and trusting within the process and being a part of the team. Mr. Mayor, I think me and Exante, just by ourselves alone, have been over there at least 40 times within the past 4 months, just seeing the road, measuring the road. Yes, I know how long the road is, know the width of the road, but I move that Trilogy works with myself and Councilmember Wallace on getting the specs by Friday
For which?
for Maria Antoinette,
So,
Joan of Arc.
so they don't need to work with y'all, they need to work with the companies, right? Because the mayor is right when we talk about process, so the motion that needs to go forward is a motion that makes a directive for Trilogy to communicate with the companies, right? Then the mayor will contact Trilogy and direct them to work with the companies, you get what I'm saying?
So Trilogy being our city engineer, we should be able to give a directive to Trilogy to move forward a
We
project.
can, but the directive goes through the mayor.
That's correct.
So we just have to put the motion on the floor that that's what we wanna do.
I'm asking that the mayor allow myself and Councilmember Exante Wallace to receive the specs from Trilogy, so that way, and Friday morning, who knows what would happen, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, whatever day they come out. Exante and myself have been volunteering ourselves throughout this whole process. All we're doing is volunteer ourselves again to go out, get the specs, boom. We have did the work, we get and receiving the bids, and we come back and vote and move over the process.
So are so is that if that's a legal, can we give a directive to our engineer to work with, I mean, we can't give it, we're asking for our city engineer to give the specs to the
The prospective construction company. And then you, since you already communicate with the people who put the bids in, they communicate with the engineer, and then they bring the information back to y'all, the street companies.
That's true, that's the way the process formally works, but the informal process is that there's, communication has broken down, is what we're saying, and we're trying to figure out, if we go through the formal process, we're gonna be in the same place we've been for the last 3 months. And so we're saying, how do we get the mayor to support, he says he's busy, and so Councilman Jones and Councilman Wallace have been working on this diligently, that we've all been on the same accord. And so how do we just say, all he's wanting is for the director for Trilogy Engineering to be able to give the specs or the information to any RFP, a summary one sheet on what this is, to be able to go out. And Councilman is saying that the mayor, who is the person who's supposed to give Trilogy that directive, is not doing it. But as city council, we can give directive to the mayor that he do something, and if he doesn't, then we have other ways to go about that. So that's what the motion should be.
That's right. Mr. Mayor,
Let me help you with whatever you think your motion should be. You gave me directive 2 weeks ago when you voted to approve this contract. My directive is to follow it.
all right, so
And it's a city resolution, so you can't sit up here and just make a vote about something that's not even on the agenda to try to change it. Try it, see if it works.
So, Mr. Mayor, help the city with formulating this. How do we go and let's shape this together, and how do we go about making sure that the Bell Street potholes, the Keita potholes, and Holly Hall potholes, as learned as today, the Richmond Rose potholes, as well as making sure that Maria Antoinette and Jonah are fixed by the end of our budget cycle? How would you?
I met with someone earlier today
Who was this over? If you don't mind
on his name is Carl Burgess, and I'll give you the name, not that you know it, but I met with him, he's got experience, he used to work in Navasota on potholes. So the pothole thing is a piece of cake. He went over, he looked at Hollyhock and the others, and he said those are like not really issue. He went over to Rosewood and saw where streets were going like this with asphalt, and he said those are some major and safety issues. The engineer I spoke with, and we talked about, council doesn't realize you had it on agenda, right? So you gave me what you say you didn't give me, and I've been talking to these people. The confusion comes when I'm talking to them, you're talking to them, but you're not talking to me. Well, what you're finding out is, based on what you voted and the way our structure is, you say you want to be a team player. Why am I hearing about this at a council meeting that you've been having problems getting with, and I've spoken to several of you, but here.
I sent you emails and haven't got a response, so please don't go on the route to say that this is
Let me
finish.
Let me finish. You sent an email a couple of days ago, but that's not the issue. The issue is, you're trying to do what you directed me to do. You're trying to run in. If you want something, send me specifically what you want. I'll get with the engineer on it and we'll get it to you. Guys, you're making this more than it is, but it's only that because you're trying to step into my lane. I don't step into yours. I don't create boards. But you want to step in and tell me who to put on boards. That doesn't happen either.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
back to the item.
Send me what you want, and I'll get it to the engineer, because we're already starting to look at and work on it. If you've got,
So,
like you said, you got some
bids, yes, sir.
bids
So,
from him, and you never gave them to me.
we talked about it in the meeting, that we was gonna get the bids, that we was gonna go out and look for local companies. I sent you an email, yes, a couple days ago, because I had a meeting scheduled. Apparently, the meeting was canceled due to the fact that they couldn't come out and provide me with the assistance. So then I sent the email asking, but then I never got a response. So, Mr. Mayor, all we're trying to do, as you say that we haven't had this city strategic street plan put in place. We put a plan in place to fix these streets within this budget, trying to make sure that we get these streets done within this budget cycle. How can we help each other? I go back to that.
You've been to Marie Antoinette.
Yes, sir.
You've been to Joan of Arc.
Yes, sir, and I have.
They will be halfway through the next budget cycle before you can even think about they're totally unpaved, unfinished streets.
Yes, sir.
And you're referencing budget cycle.
Even if
And
they're
this-
not done,
and this
you
is,
get the
no,
process.
and this is
Yeah,
why,
and the engineers
but this is why.
going on doing that,
This
yes.
is why that I asked for the engineer to come out, because several companies have said that we don't have to go with asphalt on those streets due to the fact of traffic that those streets get is limited traffic. So we can go with Kulachi, we can go with Lime Base, all these different options, Mr. Mayor, we don't know. So, I don't know just as much as you don't know, but we need, as you say, come together as a team to put this process into play, to just trust one another, because at the end of the day, Mr. Mayor, all I'm trying to do is within this budget cycle, once again, just fix the streets that we have listed here and not be halfway into the budget cycle. So this budget cycle, with the bids that came out, they both said that we would be able to pave Maria Antoinette and Joan of Arc, and as well as fix these potholes with the amount of money that we have left in our streets.
And they gave you that in writing? Cause I haven't seen it.
So, Councilman Jones,
Yes, Councilman Randall.
Councilman Jones, first off, I know the work that you and Councilman Wallace have done on this project, so what do we need to do right now to move this, to keep this moving forward?
We need the specs, and the reason why I asked for the specs by Friday is because I think the next city council meeting is our last meeting, having this budget. So we need the specs by at least Friday. Myself, the mayor, and Zante, I really don't care at this point who could go meet with the bids. I've already met with them, get them to meet with the engineers, with the specs, and so they can be able to provide us with the information and total cost. They gave me an estimate cost so far without the specs. And come back next city council meeting, we vote and we on to the next budget cycle, developing another street plan and how we move forward developing those streets.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Randall.
I move that we have our city engineer create specs and create specs to be able to give to the potential bids for the paving of the roads within the city of Berkeley. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the city engineer be directed to give the specs to pave Marie Antoinette and Joan of Arc, because that's what's on the agenda, so we should be specific. Okay,
Yes, sir.
within the city of Prairie. You've heard the motion, ready for the question?
No question.
Go ahead.
In those specs, are we also, asking about the potholes?
I was told to also ask about the potholes.
So can we make sure in the motion it addresses all of the streets on page 11, on number 11? Except Richards Road, excuse me, if that, you make the motion, I said.
The potholes on Hollyhock, Vikita, and Bell Street will be fixed by the end of next week. And again, that's what I'm trying to share with you guys. You wanna get the engineer involved, when we can spend that money on getting the work done.
But you also.
We're talking potholes.
Call for the question.
You also.
All those in favor say aye. Motion passed.
Mr. Mayor, you also don't know how much these
Hold-
potholes cost. And if you.
Actually, I do.
You don't know if they're the highest bid or if they're the lowest bid.
It's better than that, but we're on to item 12. Discuss and take action on cost of a landmark for Sandra Glen. A landmark for Sandra Glen landmark up to 4,000. Councilman Jones.
Here you guys see, so, the process of receiving a historical landmark, we've gone, I would say, not provided with the most, accurate information, so, to even avoid that, what I did was ask the university, how do they go about putting, markers on campus that are not, come from the actual historical committee, or going through the Texas Historical Committee to actually develop their own, historical markers, which you can see, later on, I'll talk about a historical committee, so maybe we can go into the process of having, different things, be monumental to the citizens of Purview and all those different things. So as you see on the first page is a mock-up of basically a simple version, one that already exists, but it's a draft. Once you go to page 3 and 4, one is in bronze and black. Another one is silver and black. The silver and black cheaper, and I'll read you guys off the cost estimate as to why I said up to $4,000. But also, I think Dr. Brown has to come to this item.
She had signed up prior to the meeting too.
Okay, since
Do
we
I do it
skipped you, go
before?
ahead. Before, go ahead,
Or after?
go ahead. Since we're not done with it, and we,
Okay, what I wanted to,
come on, you gotta talk.
It's
We
good.
got a quorum, we gotta go.
okay, for item number 12, as you all know, the, memorial is on University Now. I was the one that started that, and I started that with the help of Sandra Glenn Sarar. She's a Zeta, and, Dr. Flowers. And I talked with her as late as today, and she's very interested in helping put together this memorial for Sandra Glenn. And she has over 4,000 followers, and she's willing to set up a GoFundMe page and ask each one of her followers to send $2 or $5 to support this, because not only is the marker going to have an initial cost, but over the years that it's here, it's gonna have maintenance and upkeep costs. And we also have the National Alumni Association that we can ask for support for this. But not only that, Sandra Glenn is a national and an international global figure. And globally, there are people who are willing to support this project with thousands and thousands of dollars. Also, with the Economic Development Corporation, there may be ways that the EDC can work with this project as a memorial park or whatever. But what we would have to do is expand it to a memorial park, not just for Sandra Glenn, but for all of the notable people in Prairie View who have made significant contributions. So there's a potential, we're talking about, I think Councilman Jones is talking about $4,000, but there's a potential for tens of thousands of dollars that can come into the city from different sources. Even some of the businesses on University Drive, Sandra Glenn Parkway, they're interested in making contributions to this type of project. So, are you interrupting?
No, finish.
Go ahead, I
So-
need to make a comment based on what
No,
you're
hold
saying.
on, just let it finish.
So you may want to think about combining item number 14 with this and look at it in a broader sense as a memorial to support the entire university and community.
May I make a comment based on what she just said?
First off, Dr. Brown, thank you for your comment. That's something that I also thought about Sandra Glenn following and contributing. I guess my question, or something we would have to research is, I don't know if we could do the GoFundMe or the raising money from the city aspect.
No, the lady, her soror,
Yeah,
Dr.
Toya.
Flowers, she has over 4,000 followers, and she's willing to do that on her
Right,
own.
that's
She did
what-
make a
that's
donation
what I'm
to the
saying.
city.
We would have to be
to
sure
the
that
project.
Can I address that?
Sir.
Let me address where she is. Okay, when you have, that's basically a special project. You have to set up what we call a special fund. We've had that in the past. The citizens of Alta Vista set up a special fund to have their streets paved. And that's how their streets got paved in Alta Vista. So in this case, the city would just be the keeper of the fund. You would set the fund up, the monies would come in from whatever source that the fund was set up with. The city would simply be the keeper of the fund. And then you would have a committee that would more or less manage the fund as far as how the funds would be dispersed. In other words, how you would, whatever you would bill would be up to that committee. The city would simply be the keeper of the fund.
Okay,
And many people could then contribute to it.
right,
And
sounds good.
that's
So
what
council, you can check on and advise us on, I know it may have been something that was done in the past, laws change and things, so
Yeah,
if you look into that. and
we would
report
be
back
happy to
us.
look into that and give you a legal opinion on that. I
Okay,
think one of the problems that you find in that sort of situation is that if you have a special fund, you can't give the money back to anybody donated if the actual
Right.
activity never happened. So there's some catches on that, but yeah, we can
okay,
absolutely
so
give
you'll
you.
bring us back what, and then we
Yeah.
can take a look at maybe action.
Exactly.
Keep them informed.
No, you go ahead.
I guess my question was, in the event that we didn't raise a cent for the activity fund, where we planning to get the 4,000 out of the budget?
So, it'll basically come out street maintenance, just like the beautification project did, everything else. Same model of that go along, the side of the road, will be part of within the street, maintenance budget. As well as, Dr. Brown, to address that, I do, like the conversation or the talks of that and going down that route eventually, but I do think that this, would be the first step, before getting that situated, due to the fact that, I, for quite some time, I know Jonathan Reynolds for quite some time, have been in talks with actually her family, and, the street name is actually getting ready to come, off the street, and, to my degree of knowledge, which may be incorrect or correct, that when that came down, that the park was already supposed to be, finished, and I just picked this up not too long ago to go ahead and make that first step. So in reading from, Mr. Marcus, who is the architect of this project, he says, Kendrick, I put together 2 rough drafts for the plat based on the text you sent to me last week. Not sure if the layout is exactly like you want. As typically we get the design text and the word doc, the exact layout from the customer. See attached, and what I put together, we can make any and all changes you need. The draft, number 1, would justify layout, probably looks a little better. Quick note, we can tweak the wording, but probably cannot add too much more as we're going to be maxing out in space available soon. To fit all the text and city members using the manufacturer minimum font size of 3 by 8 tall capital letter height, the plaque will need to be a 24 wide, 36 tall, the same size as the PBMU historical markers that are actually provided in the photo. The plaque will be mounted on a single steel, 3 feet post, as I mentioned yesterday, or the day before, we had talks, actually yesterday, but yesterday in the email. The total cost, including the plaque, 6 feet long, 6 feet long painted steel pole, and crane ground shipping is about $5,200 cost for the bronze, which is the front, one on the front. What I said was $4,000, so, I think that would be more suffice for the budget, or the silver and black, which is about, $3,450. Installation is not included, public works, we'll have to instill, just for reference, this is the fact. So I asked that we, do up to $4,000, will put us at the silver and black one, that's provided on page 2, and then it will be provided, with the city logo